22-year-old student Lindsay Gilbert is suing her ex-boyfriend, 25-year-old sales rep Tim George, for 2 suits he charged on her credit card.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 203 on the calendar in the matter of Gilbert versus George. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
Ms. Gilbert, it is your claim that the defendant, with whom you lived for a period of time, owes you some money for charges that you allowed him to put on your credit card.
That's correct.
When did you live with the defendant?
We actually didn't live together. We were in a relationship for almost a year, beginning of September of last year.
And you say you never lived together?
No.
Just a second. I'll get to you in a minute. Did he ever stay in your home?
He did.
Who else lives in your home?
My daughter.
How old is she?
She's going to be 2 in October.
And when he stayed over in your home, did he ever stay over in your home for more than a day or 2 at a time?
Yes, he did. Sometimes it was, he was in and out of homes at the beginning of our relationship, so he stayed sometimes.
So he didn't have another permanent apartment when you first met?
That's correct.
I
stayed with his sister and me and some of his friends, different friends.
Okay. Now, at what point did you allow him to use your credit card?
After about 5 months of our relationship, we began talking seriously, and in February, the end of February of this year, he was working on a promotion and he needed to be more presentable, and because he has bad credit, he wasn't able to get any suits or anything, and I had good credit. And so he asked me to loan him some money so that he could buy suits.
And you have a credit card?
Yes, I do.
You have the February or March bill from 2001 with his purchase on it?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please.
Okay. Here's the February and March.
Thank you. There's one bill here that's underlined, March 9th, Junior Denim. What is that?
I believe the one underlined, is it Junior Denim? That would be my shorts.
Okay, so that's your bill?
Yes.
And all the rest of his, the polo stuff, ties?
Yes.
Did he pay anything towards the bill?
He paid one. The receipt is attached to the February bill. He paid in the amount of $60 in cash. And in the final arrangements of our relationship, it ended the 26th of May. We were meeting, talking about the bill at his sister's house, and he pushed me around and pulled my hair and stuff, and
stopped paying.
That's not true. If you can see,
stop
I have a restraining order against the defendant.
shh.
I mean, against the plaintiff.
I've got
Okay.
police reports.
Okay, I don't need to look at the police report. We're not about police report. We're about shoes and ties and shirts. Okay, Mr. George, let's hear your version.
My version is I live in my apartment with my 2 best friends, Miles and Marshall.
I want you to listen to me.
Sorry?
I want you to look at me and speak slowly.
Okay.
You lived in your apartment.
Right, with my 2 best friends, Miles and Marshall. We had a nice place. When I met Lindsay, it was the first of, let me think, must have been right after we got back from Phoenix. We went to Phoenix for...
I don't care why you went to Phoenix.
For New Year's, so it was right after New Year's.
I don't care.
January. It was in January, okay? So we got back, we got a place together, okay? I moved out with them two, you know, and we got a place together.
You mean she moved out of her old apartment?
No, she moved out of her mom, or her grandma's house, and I moved out of Miles and Marshall's. You know, we all 3 lived together. They got another apartment. I went and moved in with her. I moved in with her.
Yes.
We lived together, and I work full-time, about 50, 60 hours a week sometimes.
Yes.
She would take me to and from work, drop me off, pick me up from work most every day.
Okay.
I would just sign my paychecks over to her because we were, you know, talking about, you know, being serious enough to get married.
How much were your paychecks?
My paychecks, I bring home about almost $2,000 every 2 weeks.
That was also untrue.
Just a second. So your defense to this action is that you paid for this by turning over your paychecks to her.
Of course.
Is that right?
My thing was I
Show
let her
me.
take care of the bills.
Show me.
I can't.
Why not?
Because I moved from Albuquerque to Phoenix, and when this case came up, I'm already living in Phoenix, so I go to the HR department at my job, and I asked them, can I get some copies of those checks where it was signed over to Lindsay Gilbert? And then they said, you know what, we can't do that for you because there's just not enough time to do that. It's a very big corporation.
He did not sign checks over to me.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lindsay Gilbert says ex-boyfriend Tim George charged clothes on her credit card. Lindsay says she wants to be repaid.
You have the capability, Mr. George, only you, of getting proof of your defense, which is that you signed checks over to her.
Right, and
Even if I believed you, sir, as of the time you separated in May, there was still an outstanding balance on this account.
I can't tell you what to do with the money that I gave her.
And it is clear that in...
It's clear you have no
I'm
idea.
speaking. I didn't hear what he said. Do I want to hear...
I can say it again if you want.
Do I want to hear what he said? Why don't you go have a talk with him, girl?
Okay.
Find out what kind of medication he's on.
What kind are you on?
Judgment for the plaintiff
You know what
in
you
the
need to
amount
do
of
right here?
$1,093.17.
Okay? You understand?
And you're just lucky, sir, that I'm not sending you out to be tested. Because either you are drunk,
Look like I'm lying?
high, or stupid. Pick one. That's all.
Why is our excuse? You may step out.
Whenever we were together, I moved out of her house because she was real violent.
Not true.
I've always wanted to get up there and tell Judge Judy what I thought, so today I got to do it.
Never, ever trust a guy with my money.
And now the next case.
All parties on Terrell versus Marlowe. Step forward, please.
64-year-old Mildred Terrell is suing her ex-granddaughter-in-law, 24-year-old daycare worker Love Marlowe, for destroying her furniture.
Miss Terrell, according to your complaint, the defendant married your grandson. Is that right?
Yes.
And there came a time when they were having difficulty paying rent, so you all decided to rent a place together. And you moved in to the place with them.
Yes.
And when you moved into this new place, according to you, you brought some furniture with you.
I bought everything.
All your furniture.
All my furniture, all the dishes, everything in the house was mine.
And then there came a time when your grandson left the defendant.
I moved out before then because of trouble that was going on. And as soon as he was able to take care, he had had surgery on his shoulder, and as soon as he was capable of taking care of the baby, I did move.
They have a baby.
Yes.
How old is the baby?
18 months.
And when you moved out, did you take your things with you?
Only thing I took with me was my bed, an end table, and a chair, and my TV, and a few dishes, and a couple of pants. That's all I took. I didn't want to take everything and leave them with an empty house, because that's what it would have been. Sheets and everything were mine.
And when did your grandson leave?
They were having trouble with the house, not only the rent, but other personal problems they were having. They moved out into their apartment, and they were there, I'd say,
Now, when
2
they
months.
moved out and went into this yet another rental property, did they take all the things with them?
Yes, I told them they could borrow until they got their own.
What did they take with them?
They took my couch. I have a list here, Your Honor.
Let me take a look at
Thanks.
the list. VCR, a couch, a lazy boy recliner, vacuum cleaner, some VHS movies, a rug, 3 end tables, a coffee table, a king-size bed, and miscellaneous stuff, linens and dishes, a dresser, those things you said they could take with them. And when did your grandson leave?
Right around the first week in January.
And where did he go? Do you know?
He came to my apartment, was there 3 or 4 days until the harassment got so bad by Love Marlowe and her family that he went to his mother's. And then he was there a while
And where was the baby?
with him.
Where is the baby now?
With me.
She has temporary joint conservatorship of him now.
Now, when he left and came back to you for a short period of time, did he bring any of these items?
No, he didn't get out of the house with anything but the clothes on his back.
And the baby?
She took his socks, his underwear, she kept everything.
Okay. All right.
And Your
So
Honor,
what's your suit? Just a second.
and one of the times when she was there,
No.
I had a criminal trespass.
How long was your great-grandson with your grandson? Until when?
April 23rd.
Is that when a court granted you temporary conservatorship of the boy?
Yes, ma'am.
And how often does your husband see the boy?
Every other weekend.
Okay. Now, tell me what happened with all this property.
Okay, well, when we lived in Cleveland, Texas, when she lived with us,
We lived together.
we
Don't interrupt her.
we did not get along because
I don't care why you didn't get along. I'm asking you what happened to the property.
she moved out. She left it all there. She said she didn't want it. You know, we could have it. Well, of course, you know, we took everything that was in the house to our apartment because it was given to us. It was ours. Then we and Andy were not getting along, so he went to his grandma's. Well, I went over there, and he told me he was going to take off with my son, that I was never going to see my son again. So I went to go get a lawyer. I came back. He told me that I could come in to see Josh in her house. So I did. As soon as I went into the apartment to go see my son, she was standing out there and she waved the cops over as soon as I walked in. Well, the only thing that I wanted to do was get my son and get out of her apartment, go back to my apartment, which is just right across the way. Anyway, well then she told the police officer that I had hit her. I never laid a hand on her. Never.
What'd you go there to take your son for? I thought you went there to visit with him.
Well, I wanted to take my son out of her apartment and go into my apartment, and he wouldn't let me. He wouldn't let me leave the apartment and go back to my apartment.
With your son?
With my son, exactly.
Well, but you had no right to him at that point. You had no more right to him than your husband had.
Well, I mean, the only thing I wanted to do was just go into my apartment instead
No, you
of
wanted
stay
to
there
take,
with her.
No, you wanted to take your son.
Well,
do you understand? You
yes,
went there under
no.
the pretext of coming to visit him. But it was your plan to go and take him
No.
and then take him into your apartment. That's what you just said to me.
No, ma'am. I just wanted. The only thing I asked Andy is that if I could visit him, that I wasn't going to go nowhere with him, that I could just visit with him in my apartment instead of being there in her apartment.
Yeah, but you didn't intend to give him back.
I wasn't going to take
You weren't gonna-
Josh nowhere.
No, but you weren't going to give him back. You were going to keep him in your apartment.
Well, Andy could have, come over there or whatever. I didn't
Right.
care.
I got it. Now, when you left, what arrangements did you make to get your things?
As soon as they could replace it, I wanted my things back.
What happens if she can't replace them?
Well, I'm sure they could, one piece at a time. Your Honor, why would I, at my age, walk out of a house with a chair and a bed, you know, after I'd worked so hard to get all of it?
I don't know. When you moved back
And
to
I
Texas,
have
it was
copies
just a
of
second.
pawn tickets where she pawned my
Wait.
stuff.
Did you pawn some of her property?
The movies were mine and Andy's. The VCR Andy had before we got together, and it was Andy's. And the only reason that I had pawned anything because I had to get a lawyer so I could get my son back, because Andy took my son and was gone for 6 weeks and 5 days, and I had no idea if I was ever going to see my baby
What
again.
does that have to do with my furniture?
Okay. Where are the 3 end tables?
I don't know what she's talking about there. I have no idea.
Is there a king-size bed?
There was, and when Andy come and got the kitchen table and his TV, he threw the bed in the dumpster.
Because there were men's underpants laying on top of the bed and men's shirt on the floor. There were stains on the bed, and I said, I don't want the nasty thing. Throw it in the trash.
You're talking about the mattress?
Yes. So we threw it in the trash.
Okay. Then you can't get reimbursed for it.
Well,
you
it
threw it in the trash.
wasn't that way before, Your Honor.
Who knows? You haven't seen it for a year.
I saw it before Andy left, and I know it wasn't that way. And I know there was men's underpants and his clothes laying on it that weren't my grandson's.
You can't become emotional about that and expect to be reimbursed for it.
That's fine.
Ms. Terrell, the truth of the matter is, you said to both your grandson and his wife, take this furniture, use it for as long as you need it, as you can replace it. If you said that, as you can replace it, I would like it back.
Yeah.
But there is a strong likelihood that they could never replace it, and you are not going to see this furniture again.
Well, I'm sure sooner or later they would
Well,
have
sooner or
replaced
later,
it.
then you get a mattress back that's a little bit stained.
Not from other men.
You don't know that. Did you do a DNA test on the mattress?
No, it certainly wasn't
All
Andy's
right.
underpants
So we don't
on the
know
bed.
that. So we don't know that. And I'm not testing your grandson's bed either. That's not my job. All right. You have her couch and you have her recliner. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
She has
You're
the
gonna-
rug. It was in Rhonda's house the last I heard.
Who's Rhonda?
This lady's standing right here.
You have her rug?
Yes, ma'am.
What are you doing with her rug?
Well, I thought it was Love's, and she told me I could borrow it.
Is it in good shape?
Yeah.
Right. Fine. So we have your rug, your couch, and the Lazy Boy recliner. Those are really the big items here.
All the
Good.
movies, Your Honor.
Oh, I'm not going to go into 104 movies. I don't know why you would leave them with 104 movies anyway.
Well, because they didn't have cable, they
Give
didn't
them
have
one,
anything.
give them one at a
that's all
time.
they
Give them
could
one
do.
at a time. I cannot be a divorce lawyer because he's not here, and I can't question him
you
as
can
to whether
call
or
him.
not. What?
He sent a number if you'd like to call him.
I'm not calling him. I'm not doing your evidence for you.
No, his lawyer, really, Your Honor, his lawyer advised him not to be here.
Well, that's fine.
To
So I
not
have to
to
take
argue
things
with love.
So I have to find things here that everyone almost agrees on, and that is a couch, a recliner, and a rug. Those things I know about.
Vacuum cleaner.
You were without a vacuum cleaner for a year?
Until I bought another one.
Well, so you have one.
It was a brand new one she took.
No, you gave it to the kids to use.
That's
to use.
not giving, I love
No,
it.
you. I gotcha. Ms. Terrell, I'm following where you're coming from, madam.
Well,
I don't think
ma'am,
you're
I didn't
following
give it
where
to
I'm
her.
coming from.
Yes,
Where
ma'am.
I'm coming from is I have children and I have grandchildren, and if you have extra stuff, even if you have stuff that's not extra additional, you say, you don't have anything, kids, here, use this. If you can replace it one day, terrific, I would like it back, because there's no bargaining.
But you
with
don't
children.
Want it to go on forever. Till it's worn out,
Sometimes
then
you
they'll
do.
give it back.
Sometimes you do. And Ms. Terrell, I'm going to tell you this. In my view, if your grandson left, set up an apartment, had been awarded permanent custody of his child, and needed the couch and the recliner and the rug and the vacuum cleaner, and brought it to his house, you would not be standing here today.
Yes, ma'am, I would.
No, you wouldn't.
Yes, I would.
No, Miss Terrell, you would not. What I'm doing is I'm directing you. Within 5 days, the couch, don't make any additional stains on the couch. Don't vandalize it in any way. The Lazy Boy recliner and the rug, which is to go back to her house, post haste. 5 days, the court will draft an order.
How about my end tables and so forth?
She doesn't have them. She doesn't know what you're talking about. Listen, you never know what's going to happen in the future. You have every confidence that your grandson is going to get custody of his child. That may happen. It may not happen. All I'm telling you is don't antagonize the situation any further, because it's nice to have a reasonable relationship with the custodial parent of your grandchild or your great-grandchild. And to make a big deal over 3 end tables at your stage in life is nothing short of being very short-sighted. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Yeah, this is case number 172 on the calendar in the matter of Acetella versus Hire.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, huh?
Miss Acetella, you had a boyfriend with whom you lived for about 9 years, according to your complaint. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
What was his name?
Leo McCullum.
And you used to be married to Mr. McCullum. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
When were you divorced from Mr. McCullum?
In 92.
And you have children with Mr. McCullum.
Yes, I do.
How many children do you have?
I have 4 of my own natural children and 1 that I raised from his previous marriage.
Did Mr. McCullum ever have custody of his children
Yes, at one time, yes.
when he was living with the plaintiff?
Yes, part of the time. Since 96, he had custody.
Which child or children lived with you?
Danielle, Samantha, and Joanna.
So 3 of the girls
Yes, ma'am.
lived with you. Now, according to your complaint, Mr. McCullum attempted to murder you by pouring lighter fluid on you and setting you on fire. Mr. McCullum is currently incarcerated, serving a term of 30 years to life. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
How long were you hospitalized?
A total of 4 months.
While
in
you
the
were in the hospital, it is your claim that the defendant came to the home that you had shared with Mr. McCullum and took all of the property out of the house.
Yes, ma'am.
When you returned home, there was very little there.
I never returned.
Did you ever go back to see what was in the house?
No, ma'am.
Well, how do you know she took your property?
This is my witness. I'd like for her to come up, please.
Okay, well, we may not even have to get to your witness. Mrs. McCullum says that all the property that was in that house belonged to her former husband, and she was entitled to take it. Is that right?
No, Your Honor. I never took anything from the house other than my children's belongings. And I have my daughter, Danielle, who lived at the house at the time that this terrible thing happened. And she can verify as to what Mrs.
So it's
Estella-
your position that you took nothing from the house except your children's clothing?
That's right.
Okay, now I'll hear your witness. witness. Would you step up, please? Tell me your name.
Terry Way.
Miss Way, tell me what you know about the plaintiff's property.
Well, I know that they lived together for almost 10 years, and they acquired furniture. She had jewelry. She had her clothing.
Did you ever see the defendant take any furniture from the house?
I did not actually see her take it, no, ma'am.
So how do you know she has it?
I went there 3 days after she was in the coma to get her belongings from the house and saw that the house had already been ransacked. And there was only 3 people that had keys to the house: Leo, who was in jail, Piper, who was in the coma, and the children. So the children, maybe Paula, I didn't see them actually take it, but they're the only ones that had access to the house to get those belongings.
Did you have to use a key to get into the house?
I didn't actually get into the house. I saw it through the windows.
Did you try to get into the house?
Yes, I did.
Was the door locked?
Yes, it was.
What floors could you see from the window where you were looking?
Mostly the living room and the kitchen.
And had you been to the house before?
Yes, I had.
So what kind of furniture had been there in the living room previously?
There was a couch and a love seat, a dining room set. That's all I can think of at the time.
And all of that was gone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm with you, Miss Heyer.
Okay. First off, I'd like to call my daughter Danielle for a witness. The first time we were allowed into the home, I wasn't even allowed. It was still under crime scene by the police for at least a week. The second day of this, I had to go by the home to have my daughter go in and pick up some medicine. She was escorted in by the police. At that time, I wasn't able to even go into the home.
And what about the third day?
I have no idea on the third day. They were going to contact us. I forget the detective's name at the time where we could go in and remove the children's clothes.
We've underlined the 2 sections that apply.
Well, this is a copy of a newspaper article. This indicates that Mr. McCullum at some point was free on bond of $300,000. So he was freed awaiting trial for a period of time?
Yes, ma'am, almost a year.
When was bail set?
Bail was set, I believe, at the time that he was arrested, but between his attorneys, they wanted it reduced, but our side said no.
Doesn't make any difference. He was free on bail.
Yes, ma'am, but that happened 3 weeks after. He was in jail for 3 weeks before he was released on bond. And I have another article here that talks about the belongings.
I'd like to read that, too. The defendant says she doesn't have them. I don't know whether she has them or not, but there has to be some proof that she has them, because there are possibly other explanations as to what happened to the property. I'll get to that in a minute. What's your name?
Danielle.
Danielle, did you originally lie to the police about this fire?
Yes.
You originally lied to the police and told them that your father was nowhere around. Is that right?
No.
Danielle McCullum said that she was standing 5 feet from her father and O'Neill in a neighbor's yard when the woman burst into flames. She said she didn't see a lighter in either of their hands. Later, she said she originally told the detective she had been in her room when O'Neill caught fire. She told the jury Wednesday she lied because she was scared.
That's
right?
true.
So why would I believe anything she says?
And ma'am, I never got a phone call. I never got a card asking how I was doing or anything. Nothing. After 9 years.
After 9 years and 3 of the children living with you.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, they must not be very nice
I had
people.
my very bad faults, but after
She was drunk.
Excuse me? Listen.
She was an alcoholic.
Well, there had to be
Just out of
some reason why,
house.
listen to me, madam, she may not be perfect, but there had to be some reason why your 3 girls chose to live with their father instead of you. There had to be some reason.
There is. I was incarcerated.
Well, that's a very good reason.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Piper Acetella says her ex-boyfriend's ex-wife, Paula Heyer, ransacked her home and stole her belongings. Piper says the theft occurred while she was in a coma.
She says it wasn't her. It certainly wasn't you. That leaves old Leo. Now, what could Leo have done? Could Leo have given his attorney the key to the house and said to his attorney, in case she makes it, I don't want her to have anything? He could have done that. May have even sent it over to her house. Who knows? Anybody who was crazy enough to do what he did could do anything. And clearly, if he was out on $300,000 bond, he had some money. Where did he get the money from for $300,000 bond? From his parents.
Oh, yeah.
So he could have given his parents the key to the house.
They weren't there yet.
They're out of state.
Doesn't make any difference. Gotten it to them, said one way or another, you get into that house and take everything out of that house. I don't want, in case she gets better, I don't want her to have a thing.
Can she explain about Nancy, the woman that actually saw them taking the stuff in and out?
Well, I would like to hear a witness if you have that witness. Where is that witness?
She was reached by telephone, but apparently she couldn't make it here.
Why? Who is she?
She's Leo's cousin's wife.
She came to see me in the hospital quite frequently while I was waiting for her to come out of her coma.
Well, why can't she be here?
She said that she would be here, but she had to talk it over with her husband, and we think that when she did that, and since he's related to Leo, that they didn't want her to show up here because it would be a plus on her side. So she never did return the calls after that.
Do you understand my problem?
Yes.
What?
I know where the furniture went.
Well, then let me hear you.
Okay. Leo's brother, McCullum, had put everything into storage because the landlord had got a hold of him stating that he was going to trash anything and everything that was left in the house because the rent was due. So he took the stuff from the house, put it into storage. I have the receipts where he paid storage for 10 months.
And when was that done?
Just a second. Here we go.
And I was never notified.
So Leo's brother?
Yes.
Leo's brother took the stuff and put it in storage?
Yes, which he paid storage on for 10 months before he took it out.
Well, where is it now?
It's at his residence in Ozark, Missouri.
Your Honor, I was never notified.
Regards to the contents of Leo McCullough's household goods, McCullum, removed and put in storage in August of 1999. I kept it in storage for 10 months, which then I moved some of the property into storage in my house. Let us make copies of the storage receipts. Let us make a copy of this before the plaintiff leaves today. Now you know where your stuff is. You know where your furniture is.
Maybe the furniture, but my clothes, I mean, they had a habit of stealing stuff out of my closet.
I know, but you can't prove that. We're talking about major stuff now. I mean, I can't say whether they took your clothes, whether they took your shirts, whether they took whatever. The brother went into the house, according to his own letter. He went into the house. That's what I said. I said, so he could have turned this key over to a relative, to his parents, to his brother, and said, get it out of there. I don't want her to have anything, because I'm going to spend the rest of my life in jail anyway. Hopefully.
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 I'll be there to see it.
Right. So, here's this. Try again. Wrong defendant. Got it? Make sure she gets that. Thank you very much.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'll be there to see this man in prison for the rest of his life, and I will.
She didn't never work. She didn't pay for the booze she drank every day. She didn't pay for anything. Nothing in that house was hers.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Bloom parent versus parent. Step forward, please.
57-year-old Shirley Bloom and her daughter, 23-year-old teacher Terry Parent, are suing Shirley's son, 21-year-old plumber's assistant Jess Parent, for an unpaid loan to keep him out of jail.
According to your complaint, there came a time when your son was facing a prison term or facing jail unless he could come up with some money. You took out a loan so he would have the money, but you needed some collateral, and the only collateral that you had was your mother's car, which you did put up as collateral for this loan. Your brother hasn't paid back the loan. What was he facing jail about?
It was for deferred adjudication, and he had hot checks.
A deferred adjudication, which means if he paid back the money, he wouldn't go to jail.
Right.
Okay, and how much money did he have to come up with?
Altogether, it was like $1,900.
So did he come to you and ask you for the money?
Actually, he came to my mom.
What did he say to you, Miss Blum?
He told me that if he didn't have this money by this certain time, that his probation officer, when his probation was off, that they would automatically give him a year. And if he went to jail, then he would go automatically to prison.
You then spoke to your daughter?
Right.
I used my mother's vehicle. It's a '97 Kia Sophia, and got the lease and the amount of money I needed.
And what were the monthly payments on it?
Every week it was $38.72. On March 23rd, 2001, I paid the loan off, which he didn't help me other than maybe, 6, 7 payments. of all.
$871 he gave you
Right.
back.
I had to pay off the loan, which was $1,987.22.
Okay, let's hear from you.
I disagree with everything that was just said because I'd give my mom money to the fact that if the baby, my sister's baby, needed something, I'd give them some money. Every time I got paid, I'd give them some money.
That's not
you know,
true.
to help
That's
them out.
not true, Jess. You know that.
I mean, anytime they needed help, I would help them out. And I mean, it's just been going on like this since I was little. I mean, she's been wanting money. I mean, I had a job.
Let's
I
go
stayed
back.
there. Okay.
You faced a term of imprisonment on a deferred adjudication. You had to come up with some money, all at one time. Did you ask your mother for the money?
No, ma'am. It
Did you
wasn't that much.
Just a second.
Okay.
Did you discuss with your mother the fact that if you didn't come up with a bulk piece of money, you were going to go to jail?
No, ma'am. I had a job, and it wasn't that much money. For
Just a
deferred adjudication, I was not going to, it wasn't having to pay a fine.
Is what you're telling me that your sister never gave you a check to give to the court for fines?
No.
Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
And that was on or about August of 2000?
Yes. I had a job. I was working.
That's not what I asked you.
Okay.
Are you telling me that you would never, in August of 2000, needed a bulk sum of money to pay fines and other bad checks? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
What's the name of your probation officer?
Dolores,
What's her phone number?
I have no idea.
Oh, sure you do. You have to call and check in with your probation officer, sir.
I went and seen her once a month. I never had a call and check or nothing.
Does that name sound familiar to you?
Yes, it does.
Do you have the
But I
telephone number of the probation officer?
No, I don't. I never got anything like that. He would never give it to me because he didn't want me to talk to her.
Do you have a copy of the check?
No, we just have the copy of the loan.
The agreement, the
Right.
lease agreement.
And
for
I have, these are checks that I picked up with some of that money for him because he was going to go to jail that day if they weren't paid. And the rest of it I gave it to him to pay his fine.
Well, you certainly made restitution on that date, sir. So that takes care of your argument that you didn't need a bulk of money in August.
I didn't. I had to pay a certain payment before that date.
No, that's not true.
Yes, it is.
No.
Your Honor, why would we get the loan if, I mean, I have my own responsibilities,
What did
more or
you do
less.
with the check that you got for it?
I cashed it and I gave him the, my mother went and paid off some of his hot checks, which we gave you the paperwork on that.
And the rest of it we gave to him.
How many bad checks did you write?
I wrote, I'd say around 4 or 5.
That's not true.
Yeah.
No, that's not true.
I wrote about 4 or 5 hot checks because I had gotten kicked out of their house. So,
What'd you get kicked out for?
well, she wanted more money from me, and I only had so much money. I was getting.
That's not
I
true,
gave her
Jess.
most
That's
of
not-
my check.
No.
Yes, that is true.
I-
Every week when I got paid, I got a certain amount. That's all I would get. I'd give her the rent. I didn't mind paying rent. I don't mind doing that. You know,
Well,
I
how
feel
old are you?
responsible. You know,
How
I'm
old are you?
21. I don't mind paying rent at all. That's part of life, you know. But I mean, you shouldn't work all week for just like $50
When you have
a
that
week
many
when you
bills.
give your whole check to your mom. I mean, that's supposed to be your mom, not your money taker.
That's right.
you
And
know.
it's supposed to be your mom.
Don't talk to him.
Your Honor, I keep a diary because he accused me several times of taking his money. He'd give me money, right. By the end of the week, he would borrow it all back. And he'd say, Mom, why don't I have any money? So I kept a little calendar. And every time he got money from me, I wrote it down. And I made copies for you, if you want to see them, showing since the time we had to get him out of jail the first time, which was like almost $700 that weekend getting him out of jail when he got in trouble, that he never paid back.
You been arrested since, sir?
No, ma'am.
How many times have you been arrested altogether?
I'd say twice.
Yes.
I'd say twice.
Yeah.
I'd
Well,
say.
it wasn't nothing besides traffic tickets. I mean, that's why. I mean, I
And
got.
lying to a judge.
Shh.
That's why I got. Well, the second time I got thrown in jail for lying to an officer, and the officer came back and put me in jail for that.
Oh, good. And what's next?
And then the other one was for traffic tickets.
And the other one was for bad checks.
No, I never got thrown in jail for bad checks.
No, because Mama helped and paid.
No, because I worked and paid for them.
No,
You got arrested for
The-
bad. Just a second. You got arrested for bad checks, didn't you?
No, he never
I
got
never
arrested.
got arrested for
Never
bad
got
checks.
arrested
No,
for the bad
because I
checks.
paid them all.
No, he came
so
to
I
us
see.
whining about
I
he was
see.
gonna
He
go to
was
jail.
on probation for something else.
Right.
Oh. Oh, what? For lying to an officer.
Right.
Yeah.
What'd you lie to him about?
I told him a different name because I knew I had a traffic ticket out.
Oh, so, and that wasn't hard to lie to the officer, was it?
No, it wasn't.
Good.
It was a
Judgment for the
class-
plaintiff in the amount of $1,009.
Erin Creatia says her boyfriend's ex, Tanya Cruz, vandalized her car by kicking it.
Miss Creatia, the defendant is your current boyfriend, I assume this gentleman over here, your current boyfriend's ex-girlfriend. And they had a relationship, must have been for a while because they have 2 children together. It is your complaint that Miss Cruz was in a snit about something, and when your boyfriend went over to her house to pick up or drop off the children, he was using your car, and she took out her frustrations on him by kicking your car and causing damage. Miss Cruz says she would never do such a thing, right?
Right.
When did this happen?
April 22nd.
You weren't there,
No.
but the boyfriend was there.
Yes.
And his name is?
Ben Mojica.
Mr. Mojica, would you stand up, please? Next to her. How many children do you have?
2.
How old are they?
7 and 6.
5.
How long did you and Miss Cruz live together?
So about 10 or 11 years.
Never married?
No, ma'am.
How come?
Just didn't get married.
Couldn't afford to.
Shh. Did you ever ask her?
No.
Excuse.
What?
He was going to buy me a ring, but I told him not to bother, so.
Did you tell him not to bother after your first child or your second child?
After my second one, when I knew that things were going pretty much downhill.
You couldn't have a clue to that before you had children with him?
No, he was actually a pretty good guy at that time. He just seemed to have went down the tubes, going to jail, getting into things that I don't want around my children.
Who is this man?
My uncle.
Uncle. Just seems a little odd to me that life has changed so much over the last 20, 30 years. That people live together 10 or 11 years. They don't want to make a commitment to get married, but they don't feel as if having children is a commitment. Just something doesn't balance out to me, so I'm always interested in this as it's just a social experiment. Do you understand that, Ben?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so on the 22nd of April, what were you doing over at her house?
They were having a toy party.
What is that?
An adult party, like toys, dolls and things like that.
No, it's like lotions and stuff.
What?
Lotions, it's for adult, it's for...
An adult toy party. I shouldn't have gone any further. I thought it was a toy party for children. My mistake. Okay, so you were having an adult party.
Right. It's
Okay,
not just
go ahead.
Well, I was with the kids, with Marcus and Tiaja. We were at Lori's house.
Who's Lori?
A friend of hers and mine. And Marcus and Tiaja were there with me. I had picked them up.
Your 2 children?
Yes, at the daycare earlier in the day. And I had called Tanya. Then she had informed me about they were having a little party, and her sister, Michelle, was down here from Hartford. And Michelle also has 2 children. And she just had one, so he wouldn't know anything really what was going on. Xavier would know. So she asked me, Ben, can you come and pick up Xavier?
Who asked you?
Michelle did.
That's her sister. So
Yes,
her
ma'am.
Let's get to the story a little bit
Right.
faster.
All
So,
right.
so far
her
you're doing
sister-
fine, but we
Okay.
got to get there because I have other things to
Okay,
do.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so her sister said, can you come and pick
Yes,
up
can you come and
Xavier,
pick up
who is how
Xavier?
old?
About 11, I believe.
How old is Xavier?
He's 10.
10 or 11. You always
Yeah.
quibble over a year. So
Okay.
they wanted you to come pick him up because the party was inappropriate for him.
Yes, for him.
Okay, so you went to pick him up?
So I went to pick him up, and Marcus and Tiaja were with me at Lori's at the time. Marcus was hungry, and I had just ordered Chinese food. And I told Erin, and I told Lori, hey, I'm gonna leave him. He's hungry. He'll just have something to eat. Can you watch him? She said, sure. I took Tiaja with me, which is my daughter.
She wasn't hungry.
No.
She's always hungry.
Don't do it again. You want to know why? Miss Cruz, because if I see that you can't control yourself in the courtroom How am I going to believe you when you tell me that you wouldn't dare do what she says you did to her car, because you don't have a temper like that? You can control yourself, right? So far, it's been twice that you haven't been able to control yourself, or 3 times. You get me?
Yes.
Even your uncle gets me, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Go ahead.
So when I pulled up to pick up Xavier, Tanya was outside and Michelle was outside with her baby that she just had. So she came out to show me. I'm real close with them and stuff. And when she came outside, I said, "Oh, Michelle, there's your new baby. I'm getting out of the car." And she kept asking me, "Where is my son? Ben, where is Marcus? Where the F is Marcus?" And I'm ignoring her because she gets loud and she's always doing that. And Tiaja, I look at Tiaja and I saw in her eyes, she was getting, you know,
Right,
like,
because
what's
her mother
going
was
on?
acting inappropriately.
Yeah, so I said, "Tanya, you know, relax. Why do you guys?" She goes, "No, where the F is my son, pa. So I kept ignoring her, and I'm talking to Michelle. She said, "You want to ignore me?" Or I don't know if she chose those words or whatever. She went right around us and started kicking the car. And that's when I got off, obviously.
And?
There was people around, and I said, "You guys saw that, right? You guys saw what she just did, right? Right?" And everybody's like, you know, all of a sudden nobody saw anything except one kid. He saw it. And I have a police report.
I'd like to see the police report, please.
And he's
Can't control yourself?
He's a minor, Your Honor?
No,
Can't control yourself?
I'm just trying to,
You're
basically
trying.
put my hand.
What do you think? You think that I'm not going to let you speak? Do you think that this is only a one-sided case, that only he gets to speak? You do know that both sides get to speak, right, Miss Cruz? In their turn. What's Uncle's name?
Vincent.
You get it, Vincent?
Yes, ma'am.
You get her, Vincent?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Because you're going to have to make a very important decision, Vincent, as to whether or not you want to speak later.
Okay.
Because you don't look like the kind of guy that wants to be humiliated. All right. Okay, Miss Cruz, now it's your turn. 2005. How many people were at the party?
At that point, there was probably about 4.
4
My
women?
sister, yes.
Where was Uncle Vincent?
He was not there.
So, Uncle Vincent saw nothing. Is that right?
Right. But when I went outside, they were outside talking. I noticed that my son wasn't in the car. I asked him, you know, "Where's my son?" He ignored me. "Where's my son?" In which he had told my brother she looked so good that I couldn't look at her. That was in his words. After he ignored me, I said, "Tiaja, get out of the car. Go get my son. Bring him back."
Why did you do that?
Because he had just came back from Florida. For 2 years, he hasn't seen his children. So why are you going to leave your kids behind? And my daughter not being hungry, she's hungry all the time, but that's irrelevant. So I told my daughter to come in with me. We went in. He has a very bad temper, so I know not to provoke him. We went inside the house. He started swearing and, you know, saying derogatory comments, in which I shut the door because I had company. I thought that was over with. I sat there, I got a knock on the door. The cops came. They know him very well. They ended up asking him to leave the premises. And 3 months later, I get court papers in the mail.
He made the police report that day, and there was a witness in the police report who indicates that they saw you kick the car.
That's, I forgot to tell you. He says, "I'll pay somebody to say that she kicked the car."
Ridiculous.
Is there anything that Uncle Vincent is going to tell me? No, he's just here for moral support.
Right. Perfect. Pretty much the women that were at my house are single working moms. And
well, they're single working moms, but you were having a party at your house, the subject matter of which was inappropriate for children.
Right.
And you had a 10-year-old child there.
No, my sister had called, and they got
She
along.
didn't call.
Yes.
He called your house.
No, she had called him.
So she had called him to please come over and pick up her son?
Well, she had said, "Come see my nephew. You know, he's still a baby."
Sounds as if
She
your
was gonna
family
ask
doesn't
him.
dislike him as much as you do.
No, we actually, they get along with him.
Good. Can I see the estimate, please, on the car? And this was your car?
Yes.
Ms. Cruz, I don't believe you. I believe you have a hot temper, and I believe you went out there and gave the car a good kick because he ignored you. And I believe that you walked outside the house and you said exactly what he said you said.
I interrupted a couple times because he takes a long time to tell.
Listen to me. What I'm telling you is I believe him, and I don't believe you. I believe that you kicked the car because you were frustrated and annoyed that he wouldn't respond to you.
I was upset.
Oh, I know that. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $894. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Connie Adams says former friend Richard Hood owes for rent, loans, and harassment. Richard is countersuing for the return of his truck.
Ms. Adams, the defendant was a friend of yours who, according to your complaint, you were allowed to move into your home.
Correct.
You claim that he owes you some money for rent and for harassment and for a small loan that you made to him. Mr. Hood says that, as a matter of fact, he owes you nothing. Your relationship after he moved in changed, and that you told him he didn't have to pay rent. There was some point where he gave you the title to his car as collateral on the loan. It got very, very ugly, and Mr. Hood says that you actually kept some tools that were in his truck. He's counterclaiming for that property, and also he says that you've been harassing him. Is that right, Mr. Hood?
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Hood, how do you know Miss Adams?
I did some work on her house about 3 to 4 years ago for another contractor, and I met her at a bar about a year before that, and did the work on her house, and when I got done, she was wanting to do some further work, so I said okay, and me and my girlfriend, we had a falling out, we split up, and I was asked to leave, and I went to Miss Adams, and I said, would you care to trade the work for the rent? And she agreed.
That's not true.
Shh. Well, it is true, because that's what you say in your complaint, that initially he asked to move in, and you agreed that until he found a job, because you didn't have a job at that point,
Correct.
according to her.
But he had one lined up.
Shh. According to your complaint, you said, well, you can do some work around the house until you start your job, and then you can pay me rent. Is that what she told you?
Yes, Your Honor.
Oh, okay. When did you move in?
It was around January. It was like maybe right around the 16th.
And what work did you do in the house?
She had a bathroom, didn't have enough plywood on the floor, so when you set the toilet down, the wax ring wouldn't fit right, so I had to build up some plywood around the toilet.
How long did that take you, Mr. Hood?
Probably a couple hours.
What else did you do in the house?
I patched holes in her walls. She had various holes.
How many various holes did she have?
Probably about maybe 5 or 6.
5 or 6 holes. With your
2.
hands, show me how big the holes were.
Just like pinholes were.
Little holes?
They're little tiny, like nail holes.
It was where a towel rack had fallen off the wall.
Listen to me.
Okay.
Speak not.
Sorry.
Little pinholes. So what you do is you go to the store, right? You get a little tub of that putty stuff. You go like this, you put it in, you smooth it over,
Yes,
right?
Your Honor. There was like maybe some like that too as well.
Oh,
where
big
she
nails.
pulled a picture.
Big ones, so that you had to go like this
Yes, Your Honor.
instead of like this, right? Would you
Yes,
say
Your
it took you 20 minutes?
Yes, Your Honor.
So that now we have 2 hours and 20 minutes. What else did you do?
She wanted a wall framed in her basement, which I told her then I wasn't a framer either, so the wall would look good. To the eye, it would look good, but it wasn't perfectly level. I didn't have levels. I had very little stuff to work with. But I had just enough, and I got the wall built.
You built a wall,
Yes, Your Honor.
an unlevel wall.
Yes, Your Honor.
And, Mr. Hood, how long would you say that it took you to build that wall?
Probably about 5 hours.
What else did you do?
I'm not.
That's about it.
Okay, so that we have, and I shot. Put it down. So this is what we have, Mr. Hood. We have 2 hours, 20 minutes, and 5 hours. That is 7.5 hours. That is a full day, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
You moved in on what date? The 16th of
Yes, Your Honor.
January? On what date did you start to pay rent?
I think it was like a month, roughly about a month after
And
that.
how much was your rent per week, per month? What did you decide?
She decided she wanted to make it $100 a week.
$100 a week. And you worked for a day. And you lived there for a month before you started to pay rent.
Yes, Your Honor.
According to you. So that would mean that you owe her 4 and something weeks in a month. Let's say you have $450 for rent. So let's say I'm going to deduct $50 for all the work you did for her.
Okay.
$50. Is that fair?
Yes, Your Honor.
This is too easy. And when did you move out?
It was probably right around March. I don't know the exact date.
Miss Adams does. What day in March? Miss
March
Adams?
30th.
Oh, January, February, March. So he lived there about 3 months. How much did he pay you in rent?
$200.
When? In what month did he give you $200?
The last 2 weeks he was there.
What'd you let him stay for?
Well, I felt sorry for him because he was fighting for his children, and I took in the whole story about how the state had the kids in foster care and they were turning against him, and he hadn't seen the kids in months. He needed a decent place to stay where the children could come. And my heart went out to him. And once I let him move into the house, the state was allowing the children to come see him on Sundays, sometimes Saturdays, at my home, in my presence.
Is that true, Mr. Hood?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, go ahead.
And I felt sorry for him, and I felt sorry for the children until I found out what he was really like, and I believe the children are better off where they are right now.
Why?
Because they're on a farm with their aunt, and these two are in the bars nearly every night. He met me in a bar. I was DJing at that bar. I wasn't drinking. I was the DJ there.
How do you know that they're at a bar every night?
I know several bar owners in town because I do DJ work.
How many children do you have, Mr. Hood?
I have 6 children, Your Honor.
How old are they?
One's 21, one's 10, and little girl's 17, one's 18, and then the 2 and 3-year-old.
When was the last time you lived with any of your children?
Roughly about a year.
And then the state removed them?
I was removed from the house because of domestic violence.
You were?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Miss Adams. What else?
I have receipts for the loans that I gave him.
Let me see it.
All of those are receipts. And his bar tab.
I don't care about his bar tab. All these checks that you have circled are made out to cash, Miss Adams.
Right, because he doesn't have a bank account. I had to get cash to give him. It says in the memo that it was a loan to him on 2
I
of
don't
them.
care what it says in the memo.
Ma'am, he truly does owe me that money on that loan. He truly does.
You want to tell me about the lawyer's fee?
Yes, I do. He was in court at family court, and his attorney was not going to represent him. He called me several times, very upset, because he knew then he was going to lose guardianship of his children. And I said, I don't know what I can do. I don't really have a lot of funds.
When was
this? And he said, I think February 24th, January or February 24th.
Did you give your lawyer money on about the 24th of February?
Yes, I did, Your
From
Honor.
her?
Yes, you did.
I drove it
How
over
much?
to the court.
It was about $120, yes.
How much?
$150.
Which I paid her back.
He
Show
did
me.
not.
I don't have any receipts, Your
That's
Honor.
too bad.
Okay.
When did he leave and why?
He left the end of March because I had him removed from the home. Because
Why?
Well, first of all, he was sexually harassing me, trying to come in my room
Not
when
true.
I was dressing after I'd come out of the shower.
Not true.
He had his hands all over me at his birthday party.
Who is
And
this?
This is my 23-year-old son. And
All right, at that,
several
at that
events.
point he left. Did the police put him out?
They came as standby, and I do have the standbys that shows the police presence for him to remove all of his possessions, with the exception of the truck, because I had the title to the truck as collateral, and I showed it to the police officers. Then he went and said he had lost the title and went and fraudulently got another title for the truck so he could come get it. And the police escorted him there. If there was anything missing out of the truck, he would have complained to the police at that time.
Okay, I assume he has a police report where that's indicated. You have
I
a
don't
police
have any police report. She said I could come back.
No, I did not.
She said I could come back and
No,
get
I
the
did
stolen
not.
stuff. I got most of it. There was some
Good.
stuff
Well,
I
if you
forgot.
then you should have gotten all of it, sir. Listen to me. My sense is that at some point or another, felt as if the money that you were laying out for him, he wasn't paying you rent, he certainly wasn't doing work around the house. He was drinking. There's no question about that because he didn't stop drinking for the 2.5 months he was living with you. If you're walking around with shades over your eyes, don't come to me to complain.
He had a job the very next day that he was going to start at $27 an hour, and I knew once he started working, I was going to get paid.
But
That's
you
why I
didn't.
got his
But
tools
according
out,
to
'cause
you,
he needed
you
the
didn't.
tools. Well, then he started the work on the wall, and the work that he did is so substandard that it's
Listen
going
to
to cost
me.
me $1,500 to fix what he did.
Well, that's your problem.
I don't think it is.
It is your problem because you're a big girl.
I really thought he was getting his life together for his kids. I used to be a preacher's wife. I went to Bible college. I was trying to do what we've been taught to do. I've learned now it doesn't pay to
It
help
doesn't-
people unless they're related to you.
And even then, not always. Let's get to your counterclaim, sir. Your counterclaim is for the tools. I'm dismissing that part of your counterclaim because unless you have a police report that indicates you still had tools in the truck, you got your truck back, you got everything back. If you're missing tools, that's too bad. So far, you owe $550.
He owes more than that. I also have telephone tape recordings where he tells me he owes me at least $900 and that he will pay it. I have a transcript and the tape right here.
Oh, well, that I'll hear. You have a tape that says he owes you $900?
That's correct. And that he wronged me And that
I
he
don't care
didn't
if he
expect me to
wronged
give him
you,
the truck. Well, and he said he didn't expect me to give him the truck until he paid for it.
Well, he doesn't say he owes you $900. Matter. What he says is, look, Connie, I don't want to argue with you or nothing. If I owe you $900, I'll pay you. That's what it says. That means, sir, that she must have said to you, you owe me $900. Right?
She claimed that.
I told him he owed more, but that's what I gave him the truck back for. And
Listen.
I told him that in front of the police.
Hey, don't play with me. I've been in business a lot longer than you
the
have,
truck's
Miss Adams.
not worth even that much.
Well, just listen to me. Somewhere between telling him that he owed you $900 and you filing this case for $3,000, $2,100 got added
when I
on to
found
what
out
he
how
owed
much
you.
the damage was going to cost on the house, and he started harassing me. Even sent his girlfriend to crash my birthday party after he beat her up.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $550, which is what I said in the beginning. I believe that there was a relationship that was brewing.
No,
between...
I had a boyfriend, and I have a restraint. He took out a restraining order, ma'am.
Counterclaim is dismissed, so she owes you nothing.
That
you owe
the
$550,
court threw out as a misuse of
$400 for the
justice.
rent, and $150 for the loan that you acknowledge. Goodbye.
27-year-old car parents, Harris and Judy Taub, are suing their neighbors, 13-year-old Kimberly Gilmer and her mother, Martha, for car repair bills.
Mr. and Mrs. Taub, and I assume this is your daughter.
Right.
Who, according to your complaint, is entering law school.
I just finished law school, actually.
Or
and
just
took the
finished
bar.
law school.
Yeah.
Good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good luck. According to your complaint, you purchased this car for her. You a neighbor of the defendants? Do you live across the street from each other, or was she just visiting a neighbor?
I was visiting.
She was visiting a neighbor of yours, and her daughter got into her car and either backed or moved forward, and her car hit your car, causing some damage. Do you have pictures of the damage?
We do.
I'd like to see it, please. Where did you go to law school, Miss Taub?
Golden Gate University in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is the tire on the back. I couldn't figure out what it was. It looked like a satellite.
It's a Honda 2001 SUV with a spare tire that's on the back of the tail.
Now I got it. How old are you?
I just turned 13.
When did this happen?
August 14th.
What time of the day or evening did you go out and get into this car?
Like the afternoon.
Whose car did you get into?
My mom's.
Why?
Because we were about to go home.
Who gave you the keys to the car?
My mom's purse was in my grandma's house, and I knew she would forget it, so I had her purse on my shoulder.
So you had your mother's purse on your shoulder. You took the keys?
Yes.
Why did you start the car?
Because it was a really hot day, and I wanted to turn the air conditioning on so it would get cool in the car when we were driving.
But you hit their car. How did that happen?
Because I didn't know the car was in gear, and I didn't know it would move, and when I put the keys in the ignition and turned it, it jumped forward because the car was in, or lunged forward because the car was in gear.
Tell me your first name.
Kimberly.
Have you ever put the key in the car before? Kimberly? Have you
Yeah.
ever? Where were you when you put the key in the car before?
The key in my mom's car or someone else's car?
In your mom. Let's try your mom's car.
At our house, just putting them in.
For what reason?
I don't know. Just because.
Where did you get the keys from when you just because put it in the ignition?
From in her car. Because she always puts her purse in the car.
Has your mother ever said to you, don't take the keys out of my car and don't start the car?
Yes.
Hmm?
Yes.
So why do you do it?
Because I didn't listen to her.
Right. So now, Kimberly, your mom gave you her pocketbook or you took it?
I took it.
And did you tell her you were going outside to wait for her?
Well, we all went outside. Me and my older sister, her boyfriend, and my mom.
So your mother saw that you had her pocketbook?
I don't know if she saw I had it, but...
Well, she didn't leave her pocketbook in the house, did she? You were all getting ready to go. Don't speak to her. So, Kimberly, these people are in their house not doing anything. Their car is sitting on the street in a legally parked space, and you get in the car, and you start the car, and you lunge forward, and you damage their car. Who do you think is responsible?
Me.
Great!
But...
Just a second. Great! Now I'll hear your butt.
But I didn't. It's not like I purposely tried to hit their car.
That's why they call it an accident.
Yeah.
Whose fault is it?
Mine.
Right. And if you were an adult, you would have to pay for it, right?
Right.
Because it was an accident that was your fault, even though wasn't purposeful. You didn't get into the car with a view towards damaging somebody else's property. That's why we call it an accident. But since you're 12 and not responsible under the law, so I can't make a judgment against you, I have to make a judgment against you. Right? Perfect. And we understand each other. How much did it cost to fix it?
Well, we haven't gotten it fixed yet.
What's your estimate?
$945, close to $950.
$945. Yeah. How many estimates do you have?
We have two. The one I like, though, the brunt of the damage was done on this wheel cover. It's cockeyed. And what the mechanic said to me made sense.
Don't tell me what the mechanic said to you. Just let me see the two estimates.
Sure. Judge Judy, can I tell you how it really happened? Are you interested? Okay.
Sure, I am interested.
Okay.
Always interested if somebody's not telling me the truth.
Okay. Well, I was reading. It was around
I don't care what you were doing.
5 o'clock. Quiet. I hear noise outside. Like, I thought they were drunken kids outside before I even saw them, just by the noise element and how they were giggling and laughing.
Let's go. I have other things to do today.
And I see the two kids. They talk to a fella, and I figured, well, you can't stop kids from being on the street. I went back to read a book. About a minute later, I looked out again. I just got a gut feeling nothing good was going to come of this. I see her get into the car, sans pocketbook, no pocketbook. And the other, her girlfriend, was egging her on. And they were both
What do you mean? Don't tell
laughing.
me she was egging her on. What did
Do
she
it,
say?
do it. You're not going to do it. Do it. You're not going to do it. I know you're not going to do it. And they were both laughing. I mean, really laughing. And now I'm glued to the window because this car it doesn't even have a paint job. It's like a black matte primer.
I got it.
And then she talked to a fella in a truck. I think maybe she's 16, so
Whatever.
I thought she's going to back out and take off.
Whatever.
But what she did was put it in gear and accelerate. It was such a loud noise.
She didn't do it on purpose. It was an accident. She didn't mean to hurt your car. She didn't mean to hurt her mother's car. She had no business being in a car. She had no business being in possession of the car keys.
Right.
Her mother's statement is she has trouble with her. She can't watch her 24/7, therefore it's not her fault. That's pretty much what you said in your statement. Is that right?
Yes.
Well, unfortunately, as between you and these poor people, you're responsible for the damage your daughter does. And if I were you, I'd have her do a whole bunch of something, babysitting, whatever it is.
I already do babysit.
Well, what do you do with the money that you make from babysitting?
Use it, like go to the mall with my friends.
Well, now why don't you give it to your mother so that you can help pay for this property damage that you caused? Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $742.47, which is the amount of the lower estimate. That's all. Step out. Take responsibility for what you do. That's all.
Thank you.
19-year-old Brittany Mimsgray is suing her former friend, Samantha Gilmore, for the return of money she paid to go on a cruise. Samantha says Brittany backed out at the last minute.
Miss Mimsgray.
Yes.
Miss Gilmore was a friend of yours. You had been friends for a long time, according to what I read in your complaint. A group of girls decided to go on a trip. Where were you going?
We were going on a Mexican cruise.
For how many days?
A week.
And what was the cost to each girl?
It was $325 each.
Very reasonable for a whole week.
Yes.
Did they feed you on this trip for $325 for a week?
I actually don't know. I didn't go.
Do they feed you?
Yes, they do.
In any event, you paid Miss Gilmore your $325.
Yes.
She was making the arrangements. How old are you?
I'm 19.
And you?
19.
Am I correct that someone in the party had to be 21 in order for the girls to go?
Yes.
What you tell me in your complaint is that one of the girls, I believe her name was Ashley, was the 21-year-old, she backed out.
Yes.
So now you have a predicament. You've paid your $325, as have other girls, and unless you found someone else who was 21 years old, you couldn't go.
Yes.
So according to you, you waited for a while to see if somebody else was going to go and somebody else was going to go. So you made other plans for that period of time. That's what you say. And according to you, Miss Gilmore decided to take her brother.
Yes, well, actually...
Decided to take her brother. He was going to pay for himself. And his brother had a friend whose name was?
Gaius.
Gaius?
Gaius Mike. He goes by Mike.
Good. Whose name was Mike. Mike went on your ticket.
Yes.
And you want the money.
Yes.
Didn't Mike pay?
No.
Why not?
because we had made oral agreement that Mike was going to pay after the cruise, but Brittany showed up at my house the day before we left saying that she wanted it then.
Just a minute. Who did Mike make the arrangement with? With you?
With me. He made it with me and she made it with me.
Just a second. So Mike made the arrangement with you that he was going to pay for the trip.
Yes.
And you told her that Mike was paying for the trip. That was your agreement with him.
Yes.
Now she's suing you because you told her you're going to get your money for this ticket. That's what you told her.
Yes.
Go get the money from Mike. She has no way of suing him because they did not have an agreement. The agreement was between the two of you. You have a cause of action against him if he breached that agreement and didn't give you the money.
Yes, but since she had come to my house saying that she wanted the money earlier than she had expected, I figured if she felt that she needed the money before, even though he wasn't able to provide it for her, she should have called the travel agent herself and said that, because what she said was she wanted her ticket or the money.
Madam.
Ma'am.
She could have done this and she would have done that, and if she did this, she wouldn't have been in that chair. She had an agreement with you. And the agreement was you were going to give her back her money because your brother and his friend were going on this trip with you. And if the friend stiffed you, sue him. He went, he had a good time. I assume he ate, right? Well, I'm sure his company wasn't that terrific that entitled him to a free ride, right? Right, Mr. Gilmore? You wouldn't give him a free ride.
Ma'am, she canceled out at the very last minute.
Are you following me? Your daughter made an agreement with her that she would get her money back. She has to do that. Now, since she did not gain anything herself, perhaps, unless she likes Mike, she has an absolute right to turn around and sue Mike for the cost of the ticket because he promised to pay her, and he didn't. She may have had a lot of other options. She doesn't have to exercise all those other options. She had an agreement with your daughter. Do you get it?
Yes.
Good. Now, you have a counterclaim for harassment and the expenses surrounding harassment. Ms. Gilmore, you want to tell me about that?
Yes, when she had decided 4 days we had agreed that Mike was going to take her place. We had made the agreement that he was going to pay after, and she kept constantly calling saying that she wanted the money earlier, and I told her that I didn't have it and that Mike hadn't given it to me, and she kept calling me, harassing me, and showing up. She showed up at my house the day before saying she wanted the money or the ticket, and the option was that she could call the travel agent and say that she wanted her place back because I didn't have the money. So she was constantly calling me, and then after she had left our house, she had called our mutual friend who also went, inquiring about my car, wondering where my car was going to be where we went on the cruise, and I just bought a brand new car, so I was wondering why she wanted to know where my car was.
Just a second, how do you know Brittany called your friend?
My friend, the one who went on the cruise, told me.
Well, you can't tell me that, madam, that's hearsay.
Okay.
What else?
So, but basically she had called me constantly, leaving me messages, called me when I was
that's
at
what
work.
happens when she feels as if you were stiffing her money. That's not a cause of action for harassment. You have to give her the $325, and I suggest that you and your father, when you leave here, you go to small claims court and you sue Mike for the trip that he took, that he enjoyed, that so far he didn't pay for. Right?
Right.
As between the two of you, you owe her $325. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. Goodbye.
Tatiana Levy says her former roommate, Joanna Amrit, disposed of her furniture and slandered her to her father. Tatiana claims Joanna told her father she'd been using cocaine.
Miss Levy, you and the defendant were friendly, and there came a point when you and two of your 4 children moved in with Miss Amrit. According to you, there was a disagreement. You left.
Correct.
And took much of your property with you, but left some there, including, according to you, a valuable ring. You claim that Miss Amrit refused to return your property, and in addition, she slandered you to your father.
Correct.
Alleging that you were abusing drugs.
Correct.
You want to be compensated. Miss Amrit says she gave you ample opportunity to get your stuff. She finally disposed of your stuff, with the exception of the ring, which she says she returned to you in the mail, right?
It was actually through a friend, a co-worker where she worked, and I gave it to that person to deliver to her.
Okay. When did you move in with her?
I started staying at Joanna's house probably the 2nd week of July.
You have 4 children?
Correct.
How old are you?
21.
You have enough children.
Yeah.
Forever.
I know.
Where are your 4 children?
Right now?
Yes.
They're with my mother right now.
Where were they in July?
With me. I had 2 of them with me and 2 of them with my mother.
Why did you move in with your 2 children with Miss Amrit?
At first, I wasn't with my children. I was working with her,
and I was having problems with my boyfriend Henry at the time, and she knew that.
Is Henry the father of any of these children?
Yes. And one day on the way to work, I got pulled over and I got a ticket for driving on a suspended license.
It's a very, very long story, Miss Levy.
Right.
I asked you why you were staying with her.
Basically, my license was suspended, and she was driving back and forth to work with me every day.
She was driving you to work?
With my car.
Is that right?
Correct, Your Honor.
Where were you working?
Travelers Express.
You too?
Yes.
Did your children ever join you in her house?
Yes.